All right, guys, so today we're going to be working on optical art. Optical art is art that tricks your eye into seeing something. This is a version of what we're doing. We're not going to do as many circles, but it's the same idea. For this project, we will be using lines, shape, and black and white, okay? And we're also going to be doing a little bit of shading. So to start with our paper, we're going to use a circle maker. This tool. Just to rewind a little bit and review, when you're using a circle maker, you want to use either these dots right here or the stencil shapes that are already pre-cut for you. The way you use it is you put a sharp pencil in one of the circles, one of these dots, holding the colorful part of your circle maker so it's not shifting around. You're going to turn the paper, the plastic around so you have a circle. So I want you guys to make 4 circles. I want you to make sure that they're different in sizes. So I have 4 circles, okay? The next step, we're going to take our ruler and we're going to use the width of the ruler so we don't have to do any measuring, but your lines have to be straight. If your lines are not straight, the optical illusion will not work on this project. So what I want you to do is, using the width of the ruler as your guide, you're going to put it on the very edge of your paper like this. So I'm aligning the edge of my ruler with the edge of my paper. And the key to doing this, guys, is always making sure that both ends are correct, and then you're holding this very securely so it's not shifting. Draw your line softly in case you have to erase. If you press really hard, it's going to become very messy. When you're drawing this, I want you to skip over the circles. So here is what I mean. So I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to stop right at my circle, continue again, stop at the next circle, and continue again. So it should look something like this. And I'm going to do this throughout my paper, and I'll be right back. So as you can see, I did my lines all the way across. Next, I am going to do my horizontal lines the same exact way. Using my ruler, I'm going to align it to the very edge of my paper, all the way to the edge, making sure it's even. I'm going to secure it, make sure it's not shifting. And I'm going to draw my line going horizontally, skipping my circles. I do not want any lines going through your circles. So here's what it should look like. If you need to erase, I want you to make sure that your lines are nice and light, so there's no imprint of your mistake. Optical art artists are usually very precise, very neat with their art. That's what makes it such an optical illusion. So I'm going to continue this and I'll be right back. All right, so now that I have my background, we're going to start working on the circles. For the circles, we're going to create a pattern of lines, but we want to follow the line of the circle, which is a curved line. So I am going to do 2 lines that copy this curved line, 2 lines that copy this side, 2 lines that copy this side, and 2 lines that copy this side. When you're doing this, please do it very lightly. That's 1 line, 2 lines. Now these 2 lines mimic this one. So now I'm going to do the same for this bottom part. That's 1, 2. So these 2 lines copy this one. Now I'm going to do it for the sides. That's 1, These two lines, copy this side and my last side. If you have to move your paper around, do it. That's 1, 2. That's what it should look like when you're done. Notice that the center is going to be larger, and then as you get to these sides, it should look smaller, okay? I'm going to repeat those things, the same steps on all of my circles. I'm going to repeat the top line, curved, 1, 2, the bottom curve, 1, 2, the side curve, 1, 2, this other side curve, 1, 2. Please make sure that you're touching the very edge of your circle. You don't want any gaps when you're doing this. Again, starting at the top, 2 curved lines. It's important that you guys do this the right direction. If you do not do it the right direction, it will not have the optical illusion you want. And then the last one over here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a black and white pattern. For this part, what I want you to do is start with the background, do all of the background first, and then we'll work on the circles. So I'm going to start by writing B for wherever there should be a black. You do not have to write W for white, but I want you to do this so that there's no confusion when it's time to start coloring. This is the part where everybody always makes a mistake. There should never be two of the same colors touching. So if there's black here, there needs to be white. Black, white. So this little part right here, see this little corner right here? Right there, that has to be black. White, black, white. Now I'm going to continue doing my letter B's and I will be right back. All right, so now that I've done all of my background, and I just want you guys to see, let me see if I can zoom in. I want you guys to see that I did not neglect, I can't zoom in, but I didn't neglect my little spaces. So like right here, you can see I wrote B, B, right up there, there's a little B. I have to pay attention to those little spaces because that will throw everything off if I ignore it. So please make sure that you're not ignoring those little spaces thinking that it doesn't make a difference. They actually really do make a big difference. So I'm going to take my Sharpie and I am going to color this in and be right back. So I want you guys to notice something. When you're doing a square that's around your circle, I want you to get as close to the circle as you can, but I don't want you to fill it up all the way. So you could see that I'm leaving a little bit of a gap between my black square and the circle. Okay, so make sure you leave a little bit of a gap, very tiny gap, so that only you could see it. Because when you start to color in your circle, you don't want the blacks to overlap too much because then it makes it hard for it to pop out. Okay, so you're going to continue coloring around each. Again, it is super important that you guys are very neat. Stay in the lines. Outline first, fill in your square. I'm going as close as I can without overlapping my circle. All right, I'll be right back. All right, guys, so now that I'm not going to do the whole paper, but let's pretend I did. So this is my background. We're going to move into the circles. For the circles, the center biggest square will always be white. Okay, so starting in the middle, I know this section right here is the biggest, it will be white. So that means this one will be black, black. So it's white, black, white, black, white. So from there on, I'm just going to follow my pattern. So this is white, black, white. This will be white. This will be black, white, black. This is black, white, white, black. So you can see that I'm just keeping a simple black and white pattern, okay? Always keeping the center biggest section white. So this section right here will be white, and I'm going to do this. So every circle will have the same kind of color pattern. That does not mean that you shouldn't do the bees. You should always do the bees because it really does help. It gets very confusing. All right. Now, when you're coloring, again, you're just being very cautious, very careful. Trace the shape of your curved lines and then fill it in. I'm going to finish filling these 2 circles in and be right back to show you how to do the shading. All right, so one of the things that I also forgot to mention was I never traced this circle with a Sharpie. I only filled in my sections. So if you look at the edge right here, I didn't fill that in, and I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it like that because we're going to shade around it and we're going to use the pencil to shade. So now that I have my circles, already you can start seeing the optical illusion taking place. Now to finalize that optical illusion, we're going to take our pencil and we're just going to create a shadow all the way around our circle. So you can see that I'm using my pencil almost parallel to the paper. I'm using the lead to create the shadow all the way around, nice and dark. And then on the circle itself, you could actually lightly kind of shade around it, but you always want to leave this white. So I'm just adding a little bit of shade, rubbing it, blending it. And then I make sure that the shadow around the outside of my circle is always darker than any other shadow because that's what's going to give it the popping out illusion. All right, so I'll do it again for this one. Shadow around. All right, so now we have 2 circles that have an illusion happening here. Obviously, if we did more shading and worked more on the shading, the illusion would be even better. But for what the tools that we have and the time we have, this is the best that we can do. So this is what it will look like. I think it looks pretty cool. You could do a lot of circles. Either way, this is the effect of our final project. Have fun.